No! Video games.
Yo, dude. So, I am, as you know, I'm going to Japan this week, and probably a lot of people asking or wondering, what made me make such a large leap. And it's kind of a crazy story because it all boils back down to one person in particular, and that's Yasunori Mitsuda, who's obviously a game composer. You probably know that if you're on this channel. And it's kind of a special thing for me because I found out about it at the start of the year that they were going to do a 20th anniversary concert for Chrono Cross. And Chrono Cross is kind of a unique game for me because back 20 years ago almost, it was actually 19 in America, but in the summer of 2000, Square Enix had this thing called the Summer of Adventure, which was just kind of a marketing term, but what was happening was they had 3 games coming out in a row, June, July, and August, and at the last game to come out in that succession was called, was Chrono Cross. Everyone should know that. But what they did is if you pre-ordered each one of the games, they would give you a music selection CD. And I still have that because my brother pre-ordered it, but he just gave me the music CD. And this is actually a really cool little thing. It's got like this kind of scary art on the back here. But the nice thing about this was it let you listen to some of the music. It was only 5 tracks. And I remember getting it and thinking, wow, this art's really beautiful. And I was, it was the thing that kind of like, I'd always been sort of musically inclined, if you will. I went to concerts growing up. I went to see John Williams perform live a lot. But when I heard Scars of Time, which was like the first track in the opening on this, it was kind of something special to me. And it was one of the first CDs. Like I went out at a anime convention early on, like 2001 or 2, and I bought the full soundtrack from an import dealer for Chrono Cross because they didn't release that stuff in America back then. And I've been listening to the soundtrack to Chrono Cross for as long as I've had access to a CD player or a music playing device. Crazily enough, right around the middle of summer, I found out that there was going to be another concert for Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross, but it was going to be a little different from the one that I was already going to. And it kind of just became, oh my goodness. And they're very close together. So I said, well, let's try again. And I got into that one, and so I'm going to 2 different concerts. One is not run by Mitsuda. Mitsuda is doing the Chrono Cross 20th anniversary, and Square Enix is hosting the Chrono Orchestra. And I was both very lucky to get in on them. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something that I kind of wanted to do, and I kind of hope to do in the future, but I'm doing it sooner than expected. Mostly just because, this is very special to me. That is why I've decided to make this long trip to Japan, because of Yasunori Mitsuda-san, and the music, which has been such a huge part of my life for so long. So, I will try to be updating the trip after this, so hopefully I'll have lots of stuff to follow up what you're seeing now, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So, I've made it to Japan. I've survived that 11.5-hour plane flight, which was rough, but it was only rough for the first 5 hours because after about 4 or 5 hours, you're like, okay, I've been on here a long time. How long has it been? How long do I have to go? And then you look at the flight path and you're like, oh, I have 7 more hours, or what feels like you have about 6.5, and you're like, oh, you're not even halfway. So that's probably the most soul-crushing moment, is about the 4 to 5 hour mark on the plane. But I got here. The first concert I went to out here was the Chrono Orchestra concert, and that was in the Yokohama. And Yokohama is this big, beautiful convention center place right next to the bay, and it was really nice, really nice amenities, all that. However, the Chrono Orchestra concert was not really meant for foreign travel, which was a little hard for me. Not a little hard. I got through it. It was okay. But the interesting thing was that there were two performances, the day and the nighttime. And the daytime, I got there so early because I didn't want to get lost, that I got there so early. It was before the daytime performance had even started, and they had just started doing merchandise sales for the daytime performance. They lined up for that. There was not a single person who I think wasn't local in this line of about 1,000 people. And then even when they got out of the daytime performance, there wasn't a single person who wasn't, local, like a local resident. And then the nighttime performance, it was kind of the same deal. And right before we opened the doors to go into the performance, I saw 3 other non-local people, and that was it. I knew this was going to be a rough concert for me emotionally, and the first song they started playing, I was already getting like watery-eyed, and then when they got to a particular song, I lost it. I was like, oh no, like here it comes, and then it was bam. I actually got waterworks. So it was. I've never done that. I have never ever cried at a movie, in a movie theater. I've never cried at a stage play. I've been to many concerts. I've never cried at any concerts in my life. Ever at any of this stuff. And then when they started playing, Marl's theme, I think it's to Faraway Times. It's the music box sounding theme. When they started playing Marl's theme, Marl and Chrono, I was like, I'm losing it. Especially because there was an album that came out recently where they put lyrics to a lot of the original Chrono Cross songs, and then they put like lyrics into this, to Faraway Times, and Marl's theme, and just thinking of the lyrics and then hearing the music played by the Tokyo Philharmonic, I was like, okay, I'm losing it. They actually did play an encore. They played Epilogue from Chrono Trigger, which was fantastic. And yeah, that was really cool to hear that. And it was nice to see Mitsuda. I saw some tweets he made right before the nighttime performance saying he had gotten sick. And I was like, oh, well, this is going to be a bummer if I don't get to see him. But he did come out between a bunch of different songs and played it. And yeah, it was nice to hear the Tokyo Philharmonic version of these songs. And I'm really sad, actually, that there isn't any way or seemingly any possibility for something like this to play in America. It's really disappointing because I thought it was really good. But you have to come to Japan, and then it's very, very difficult for foreign travelers to get tickets to this type of concert. Square Enix doesn't really... I got the vibe from everything that Square Enix really didn't want foreign people coming to this concert. That's the vibe I got from the ticket sales and just everything there. So, but too bad. I made it happen anyways. And everyone there was fine. The staff was great. I don't have any complaints about that. The difficulty of which to purchase tickets for the concert were very prohibitive towards anyone who wasn't a local resident. So far, it's been worth it. I would say it was absolutely worth it. It's been a pleasant experience in touring Japan so far, and it's been easy enough for me. I don't have a problem getting around or getting stuff, and the concerts, one of them, the first concert so far was fantastic, so I'm looking forward to the second one because the Chrono Cross 20th anniversary concert is produced and has been planned by Mitsuda himself, not Square Enix. So I'm actually excited to see this one because this is I think the next concert will be a lot more personal and a lot more unique, and
excited for that. But I'm really, really happy I got to see the orchestrated version of it because, like I said, it brought me to tears. It was so good. And yeah, I can't wait for the next one, and I will update you from there.
Okay, so I have returned from Japan, and I kind of got sick right after I got back, which was kind of hilarious in hindsight because poor Mitsuda-san, he got sick right before the Chrono Orchestra concert by Square Enix, which I'll admit, like, he sounded fine when I was at that concert, and then when I heard him speak at the Chrono Cross tour the week later, he sounded completely different. So he was right in a sense of that, yeah, his voice was all different because, you know, he got sick. So I'm in that state now. So I'm not saying he got me sick, I'm just saying it's kind of funny how as I was going out to Japan, poor Mitsuda-san got a little cold, and then right as I got back from Japan, then I got a little bit of a cold. But that's okay, because the memories of the concert are still with me. I was lucky enough that I was able to get a premium ticket for the Chrono Cross live tour. Now, I need to stress here for those who don't know, as I turn on my glow stick, the Chrono Cross 20th Anniversary Live Tour, it was unlike any video game concert I had ever been to in my life, and I kind of had an inkling of that going in, because I saw how he was setting up the musicians, because it was like 10 to 15 musicians, each one specialist in their field. You had a musician who was a specialist on drums, on Irish flute, on violin, on wind instruments. You had Sarah Alan, who was vocalist. You had a harp professional, and it was beautiful. What also means, though, is that at the Chrono Cross live tour, these were new compositions of all the songs that had never been heard before. They're not on any CD. They've never been played this way, and they were frankly amazing to hear. Because at first I was like, I was a little worried because, you know, a full orchestra has its own sound and stuff like that, and I was a little worried that if you didn't have as many instruments, would that mean it wouldn't sound as powerful or impactful? Luckily, that was not the case at all, and it sounded amazing because they really went all in on it. It was not just like, hey, they came out, they played some songs, they went away. They were really, really into the songs they were playing. There were moments where they would have dueling violinists, or a violin dueling a guitarist and stuff like that. You had moments where the gentleman playing the long flute, he would like come onto center stage and he would like get really into it, like, you know, like a big saxophone player would in like a jazz concert. It was great because they were playing this music like it was the greatest music that had ever been written or composed. They were playing it like it was the most popular thing ever made or written by a human being, which, don't get me wrong, it kind of is. It kind of is some of the best music. Truly is some of the best music I've ever heard. And the way the band was playing it at this concert was particularly amazing. So I was really happy to be able to be close enough in that audience to be in such a lively, upbeat type of performance and stuff. There was a moment where they played Viper Manor, and then they followed into Gale, which is the battle theme, and then they did the victory fanfare, Summer's Cry. And when they were doing Summer's Cry, Mitsuda stood up and he started waving around one of these towels, and everyone started cheering and clapping, and they each, in like almost every individual musician, came out and played a rendition of Victory Summer's Cry on their instrument, you know, guitar, violin, harp, the big flute. It was incredible. Like they even took songs that I wasn't really a fan of, but they changed it around. I think the highlights for me were the moment when they did play Victory, Summer's Cry, when they played Termina. Termina sounded amazing because it was like transformed to play more for violin and for wind flute. They played Marble as an encore, which was amazing. I liked how they did Home Village where they played one version and then they played a clip from the game of Surge flipping worlds, and then they played the other version, the other world version of Your Home Village. So that was a lot of fun. I will say this, Procyon Studios was very accommodating as far as helping out foreign tourists, English-speaking tourists like myself. They went out of their way to try to help us out. I have to admit, however, the venue I was not impressed with where they held this, the Toyosu Pit. There were two things that kind of bugged me. It seemed like Procyon did as much as they could, but the staff was okay at sort of directing people before the concert. But when we got into the concert, I got up to the door, and there was the lady at the door. I showed her my ticket, and she said, 500 yen, which is $5. And I was like, oh well, what? Well, it was like, why do you need 500 yen? And she was like, oh, for a drink. And I'm like, I don't want a drink. She's like, you have to. So there was a door charge to buy a drink. I had a 500 yen coin in my pocket, so it wasn't an issue necessarily. But I had to pay a $5 fee on top of everything else just to go into the venue. And I don't know, I think this is more of a Japanese thing, but this is something in America that's, I think, considered illegal, because nowhere in any fine print at any part of any bit of this concert tour did anyone say anything about a $5 forced mandatory drink fee at the door. So I don't think that's actually legal, at least not where I'm from. So it was really shady. The other problem was the company that I had bought tickets from, they sent me a QR code. So I gave them my QR code when I got there, and then at the venue, they checked my name off a list, and then they gave me a physical ticket. The problem was that physical ticket was numbered at the very, very end of the line. So even though I had bought the ticket the minute they went live and got it in the very first lottery, when I showed up, the ticketing service gave me a physical ticket that was at the very end. For example, I think I was like 2,285. And that means I had to wait for 2,284 other people to go into the venue, which didn't have seats. It was a stand-up venue. And I had to wait for that because the venue, or the ticket distribution company, when they handed out the tickets at the show, they were at the end of everything. So other people who somehow got their tickets mailed to them ahead of time, even if they bought their ticket super late, they were able to go in first. So I have to be 100% honest in that there was a little bit of an issue with the venue, and a little bit of an issue with the company that handled the ticket handing out. So, but however, I have done over a decade of E3 and San Diego Comic-Con, so I was very easily able to worm my way to the very front of the venue without, bumping anyone or getting in anyone's way. But besides that, the concert itself was unlike anything else, because I've been to Final Fantasy concerts, I've been to Zelda concerts, I've been to Video Games Live, and I've been even the first concert I went to was all sit down, and it was nice, but I've never seen anything like this. It was lively, it was colorful. They had a thing where the audience with these glow sticks would play a particular song from Chrono Cross, and the first 6 beats, yellow would go first on the first beat, and then it would be green, and then it would be red, and then it would be blue, and then it would be purple, and then it would be white. And everyone was, following along at this one point at the end of the night, one of the last songs they played. And so it became this live interactive thing where the audience was participating in the beats of the song when they turned their little glow sticks on. If anything I could take away from this, it was a truly once-in-a-lifetime experience. It was absolutely worth going, and I really, really, truly wish that there might be some way in the future to convince Mitsuda and Procyon that there is an audience here. I would really love it even if just once they could come play a concert like this in America, because even if it was on the opposite end of the country, like again, if it was at the Music and Gaming Festival, which is the opposite coast from where I live, I would absolutely fly out there again to do it. And I'm very tempted if there are other concerts of this type that they do in Japan, I'm going to be very tempted to go back to Japan to do them, because this was unlike anything I've ever experienced at any concert of any style. That's going to wrap up my trip as far as the concert stuff goes, and I mean, huge thanks to Procyon for going out of their way to make sure that there was all kinds of help for English-speaking people, for buying the tickets and for finding their way there on a map, and for providing, you know, hey, here's some other things you can do around the area. They were really good about that. Toya Soup Pit, I'm a little disappointed with the venue itself. I know they hosted the event, so that's kind of good, but maybe it's just a cultural thing, because yeah, that door charge thing, it seems like a very shady business deal when you spring something like that on someone like me. So, but still, in the end, totally worth it. And I really hope that someday this can happen outside of Japan for all the other fans, because they are out there. That's going to do it for me on that, and let me know what you guys think.